Ellen is utterly useless. Next month, we're done with her. She won't see it coming. I promise you that. The voice in the video was unmistakable. Daniel Carter, my boss for 2 decades. I froze, staring at my phone, fingers numb as they gripped the edges. The video was only about 30 seconds long, showing Daniel at the company's annual party, whiskey glass in hand, surrounded by a crowd of laughing colleagues, people I'd worked with for years. Some of them chuckled nervously, others shifted uncomfortably. No one spoke up for me. The video had come to me late the night before, sent by Liam, a junior analyst I had mentored from day one. The message was brief. Thought you should see this before Monday. A bitter, acidic sensation burned in my chest. After 20 years of loyal service to Carter Phillips Consulting, I was just a joke to them. I replayed the video, hearing Daniel's cruel words again. She's so clueless, thinks she's irreplaceable. Just wait, next month we'll have someone else in her position, and she won't even know it's coming. I had given everything to this company, late nights, missed family events, weekends spent working on reports to make Daniel look good in front of clients. I'd covered for his mistakes, smoothed over his blunders, even defended him when others criticized his incompetence. And in return, betrayal, the kind that left me breathless. I couldn't sleep that night. Instead, I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, my mind in a storm of anger, humiliation, and something else, something colder. A quiet resolve. At exactly 7:55 a.m., the next day, I walked into the office as if nothing had changed. My heartbeat was steady, my expression unreadable. If Daniel thought I was clueless, if he honestly believed I would just walk into my own firing squad, he was about to be proven wrong. The office was buzzing with the usual Monday morning energy, phones ringing, keyboards clattering, the smell of burnt coffee. Daniel's office door was wide open. He was sitting back, laughing with Mark, the CFO. I stopped at the door. Stay calm. Morning, Daniel, I said, offering a polite smile. He looked at me, a flash of something in his eyes. Was it hesitation? Guilt? No, it was arrogance. He grinned, as if nothing had happened. Ellen, how was your weekend? Great, I replied. I'm feeling refreshed and ready to tackle another productive month. He smirked. That's the spirit. I bet it is. I turned and made my way to my desk. The game had begun. For the next 4 weeks, I played the part of the perfect employee, smiling in meetings, offering solutions, taking on extra work, staying late, just like always. But beneath the surface, I was gathering everything I needed: emails, contracts, financial reports, things most people would overlook, but not me. I thought about everything. And, more importantly, I made sure someone else was paying attention too. I reached out to old clients, the ones who had stayed loyal to me, not Daniel. I dropped subtle hints about considering new opportunities, and the interest came fast. I contacted a corporate lawyer to lay the groundwork for something that would hit Daniel where it hurt the most, his reputation and his bank account. And I made sure to reach out to a competitor, a firm that had been eyeing Carter Phillips for months, looking to poach their best talent. I wasn't just leaving, I was taking everything Daniel had taken for granted with me. The morning of my last day, I arrived early. Daniel hadn't told me yet. He thought he'd catch me off guard. He was probably planning to call me into his office with HR, give me some speech about restructuring and budget cuts. He had no idea I was already 3 steps ahead. And by the end of the day, he would learn who the real fool was. I watched Daniel across the office, a calm smile on my face, hiding the storm inside. He was so sure of himself, laughing with Mark as though nothing was coming. He thought he had won. But today, I wasn't just going to get fired. Today, everything would begin to unravel for him. The day passed as usual: emails, meetings, reports, as if nothing was wrong, but I felt it, a subtle shift in the atmosphere. People were watching me, whispers behind closed doors, quick glances when they thought I wasn't looking. I moved through the day, relaxed, pretending I had no idea what was coming. If they expected tears, desperation, pleading, they were going to be sorely disappointed. At exactly 3 p.m., I saw Denise from HR enter Daniel's office, her face carefully neutral. She didn't even glance at me. A few minutes later, my phone lit up. Daniel Carter, please come to my office at 3:30. There it was. I took a deep breath, stood up, and smoothed my blouse. It was time to set the stage. I knocked softly before stepping into the office, offering a polite smile. Denise was seated across from Daniel, her company folder neatly placed before her, just standard HR procedure. I had seen this scenario many times, but never as the one on the receiving end. Daniel forced a sympathetic expression. "Ellen, please, have a seat." I sat. "First, I want to acknowledge your dedication to the company over the past 20 years, he began, his tone flat, as if reading from a script, but as you're aware, the industry is changing, and we've had to make some tough decisions regarding our staffing needs. I nodded, feigning surprise. We've decided to restructure your role, and unfortunately, your position is being eliminated, Daniel continued, to ensure a smooth transition. We're offering a generous severance package. Denise slid the folder towards me. I didn't take it. I noticed a quick flash of relief cross Daniel's face. He had been expecting a reaction, anger, pleading, confusion. But instead, I smiled. I understand, I said calmly. Daniel hesitated, caught off guard by my composed response. This was too easy for him, too clean. Clearing his throat, he leaned forward slightly. We'll need your company laptop and access badge before the end of the day, and of course, we'll ask that you sign a non-disclosure agreement concerning company matters. Of course, they wanted everything to end quietly. I said nothing, just watched, waiting. Daniel leaned in again, his voice softening. I know this is tough, Ellen, he said, feigning concern, but you're talented. I'm sure you'll land on your feet. Oh, I know I will, I replied, tilting my head slightly. Just to confirm, this decision is final? Daniel blinked, momentarily thrown off. Yes, of course. Perfect, I said with a slight nod. I'll start wrapping up my work. Daniel nodded, eager to finish. We appreciate your professionalism. I stood, taking the folder, and offered them both a pleasant smile. As I walked out of the office, I felt the weight of 2 decades lift off me, because now, I was free to watch everything burn. The rest of the afternoon, I did exactly what they expected, packed my things, exchanged polite goodbyes with coworkers, just another employee leaving. But behind the scenes, I was pulling the final threads of my plan. Before logging off for the last time, I archived every email, project file, and client contract I had access to, all completely legal, since I was still employed until the end of the day. Then I sent one last email, not to Daniel, but to our biggest client, the one responsible for 40% of the company's revenue. It was brief, professional. Hi Richard. I just wanted to thank you for your partnership over the years. Given my upcoming departure from Carter Phillips, I wanted to let you know I'll be available for consulting in the future. I'd love to discuss how I can continue assisting your company. Please let me know if you'd like to set up a call. Best, Ellen. I hit send. That email alone, far more dangerous than any lawsuit. At exactly 5 p.m., I walked out of the building for the last time. I didn't look back. Because Daniel had no idea what was coming next. The morning after my departure, I awoke to the sound of my phone buzzing, an unknown number. I already knew who it was. I let the call ring out, leaned back against my pillows, and smiled slowly. Daniel was about to realize just how big of a mistake he'd made. I thought it might take a few days for the fallout to begin, but Daniel's arrogance seemed to have sped things up. By 10 a.m., I had 3 missed calls from Carter Phillips. By noon, I received a text from Liam. Liam, Ellen, whatever you did, the office is in chaos. Richard Miller just pulled out of his contract. Daniel's losing it. I laughed aloud. Richard Miller, the CEO of our biggest client, the one I had sent that polite little email to on my last day, had clearly seen the writing on the wall. No Ellen, no stability, no reason to stay. Daniel had taken me for granted for 20 years. He thought I was replaceable. But the truth was, I had been the one holding it all together. And now, the glue was gone. At 2:30 p.m., another call. This time, I answered. Hello, I said, my voice composed. A sharp exhale. Ellen, Daniel's voice was tight, controlled. I just heard about Richard. He mentioned you reached out. I did, I replied simply. There was a pause. Daniel wasn't used to my unbothered demeanor. Listen, he continued, forcing a chuckle. I think there's been some confusion. Daniel's voice was tight, his tone edging into panic. Richard seemed to think you were leaving for another job. He got spooked. I'd like to clear this up. There it was. He was hoping I'd clean up his mess. I leaned back in my chair. casually spinning my pen between my fingers, and replied with calculated calm, Daniel, you've been telling everyone I was too naive to see this coming, that I was expendable, so why would you need me now? Silence. I could almost hear his pulse quicken as he processed what I'd just said. Ellen, he began, voice now more guarded, slower, that was just casual office talk. I cut him off, my voice light, almost teasing, I don't hold on to things like that, Daniel, I just make the right moves. Richard did the same thing. I heard him suck in a breath. Are you working somewhere else now? The question came out more like a desperate plea than an inquiry. I smiled. I don't see how that's relevant to you. There was a long pause. Then his voice became more pointed. This isn't a smart move, Ellen. We have a lot of mutual connections in this industry. The threat. He was still clinging to the idea that he held some power over me, that his connections would intimidate me. It was laughable. And that was exactly where he had gone wrong. I hung up without saying another word and wasted no time pulling out my plan. Daniel was just the first piece of the puzzle. For the past month, I'd been quietly negotiating with his biggest rivals, the firms he always dismissed as competition but secretly feared. One of them had been particularly interested in what I could bring to the table. At 4 p.m., I walked into a sleek office downtown, greeted by a receptionist who was already expecting me. Minutes later, I sat across from Nathan Pierce, the CEO of Sterling Company. I'll be honest with you, Nathan said, leaning forward, his eyes sharp. As soon as I caught wind of your departure from Carter Phillips, I had my team on it, and after today's news, I think we both know Daniel's ship is sinking. I smirked, and you're ready to capitalize on that. He returned the grin. I want to make sure we both come out ahead. I had anticipated this offer, but it wasn't just a job I was after. I wanted leverage. I pulled a folder from my bag and slid it toward him. These are projections based on my knowledge of Carter Phillips's clients, upcoming renewals, and the cracks in their contracts. If you want to take them down, this is your play. Nathan flipped through the pages, clearly impressed. When he met my gaze, I could see the satisfaction in his eyes. I assume you're not giving this away for free? I smiled. Of course not. His grin widened. Let's talk terms. By the time I left the office, I had sealed the deal. I wasn't just joining Sterling Company, I was taking Carter Phillips's clients with me. By the end of the week, Daniel wouldn't just be losing contracts, he'd be hemorrhaging clients. And the best part? He still had no clue what was coming. Monday morning, the storm began. As soon as Carter Phillips opened their doors, their inboxes were flooded with termination notices. 3 major clients, ones I had personally managed for years, had already jumped ship. Sterling Company had moved quickly, faster than Daniel ever thought possible. And me? I was sitting back, watching the chaos unfold. At 8:15 a.m., I got a text from Liam. Holy, Ellen, Daniel just stormed into the office. He looks like he hasn't slept. He's about to implode. I couldn't help but smirk. Good. Daniel had been so sure of himself, so convinced I was just another replaceable employee. Today, he was learning the hard way that losing me wasn't just an inconvenience, it was a disaster. By 9 a.m., the cracks had spread into full-on fractures. Mark, the CFO, had locked himself in his office, trying to calculate the damage. Legal was scrambling to review contracts, desperately searching for a loophole to keep the fleeing clients. And Daniel? He was on the phone, calling every connection he had, trying to salvage what was left. But it was too late. The word was out. Clients were beginning to see just how unstable Carter Phillips had become. And the worst part? Daniel had no idea who to blame. At noon, my phone rang. Unknown number. I answered. Ellen. Daniel's voice came through, strained and frantic. I leaned back in my chair. Daniel, to what do I owe the pleasure? He let out a sharp breath. I don't know what the hell you've been saying, but we've got a huge problem. I raised an eyebrow, though he couldn't see me. Oh, what kind of problem? You know exactly what kind, he snapped. Miller's gone, and now 3 other major accounts have pulled out. That's millions in revenue gone. I need you to be straight with me, did you? He hesitated, as if he couldn't bring himself to say it. Did I engineer this? I let the silence stretch out, watching him squirm for just a moment. Then, I spoke with a calm, deliberate tone. I'm not with Carter Phillips anymore. Daniel, what happens to your company? Not my problem. A beat of silence. You're with Sterling now, aren't you? His voice turned sharp, sensing what was coming. I smiled. I don't see how that's any of your business. Daniel muttered an expletive under his breath. This is a mistake, Ellen. This industry's too small for you to burn bridges like that. I let out a short, amused laugh. Daniel, you lit that bridge on fire the day you called me a worthless dumbass at the party in front of everyone. Silence, and for the first time, I caught it, the crack of fear in his voice. He finally understood this wasn't some stroke of bad luck. This was me, playing the game. I could almost picture him, sitting at his desk, watching his grip on power slip away. He realized too late just how much he had underestimated me. And that was just the beginning. By 3 p.m., another message from Liam. Emergency board meeting called. Investors are losing it. Talks of replacing Daniel are underway. Satisfaction washed over me. This was exactly how I planned it. Daniel had always hidden his incompetence behind my hard work, my dedication, but now, the truth was out, and in the corporate world, nothing ruins a CEO faster than panic and plummeting profits. The next morning, I made my final move. I walked into Carter Phillips, but not as an employee, this time. I was the warning shot. The atmosphere was tense, quieter than I'd ever seen it. Whispers spread as I passed by, people glancing up from their desks, exchanging looks behind their screens. They knew, they all knew. And then, I reached Daniel's office. I knocked. Come in, he grumbled, his voice hoarse. I stepped inside. Daniel sat slumped at his desk, tie loosened, exhaustion written across his face, his usual arrogance completely gone. I shut the door behind me and sat across from him, mirroring the position from just days ago when he fired me. So, how's it going, Daniel? I asked, feigning casual interest. His jaw clenched, and he shot back, cut the act. Ellen, what do you want? I tilted my head, a small smile playing on my lips. Me? I just wanted to check in on how you're doing. He let out a bitter, humorless laugh. Oh, you know how I'm doing. I smiled. I did. He took a deep breath, like he was bracing for impact. Look, if there's a way to fix this, if there's something I can do to make this right, what would it take? There it was, the desperation, the surrender. I leaned forward slightly, keeping my voice soft but firm. There's no fixing this, Daniel. His expression hardened. You think you've won? I stood, smoothing down my blazer. I don't think I've won, I know I have. And with that, I turned to leave, but before walking out of his office for the final time, I looked back and said the words he never thought he'd hear. Enjoy unemployment, Daniel. And with that, I walked away, leaving him behind in the wreckage of his own making. Daniel thought he could control the fallout. He thought a few phone calls, some damage control, and a few empty promises would stop the bleeding. But by the end of the week, Carter Phillips wasn't just bleeding, it was hemorrhaging. And now, the world was watching it unfold in real time. By Friday morning, the headlines hit. Major client exodus at Carter Phillips, CEO under fire, Sterling Company, poaches key clients in strategic move. Is this the end for CP? Executive shakeup imminent, investors losing faith in Daniel Carter's leadership. Every business journal, corporate blog, and financial analyst was covering it. And me? I was sitting in my shiny new office at Sterling Company, sipping my coffee, and watching Daniel's empire, built on arrogance and my hard work, crumble to dust. At 10 a.m., my phone buzzed. It was Liam. You won't believe this. Emergency investor meeting. Word is they're pushing Daniel out. I leaned back in my chair, smiling to myself. Right on schedule. At 1 p.m., the board called an emergency meeting. Every senior executive, every major investor, and of course, Daniel. For the past week, he'd been scrambling, failing miserably to put out the fires. But now, the board wasn't having it anymore. Gentlemen, Daniel began, forcing the same smirk he always wore. I know things look unstable, but I have a plan. Daniel, one of the senior board members cut him off. We've already spoken to the top investors. This isn't up for discussion. His smirk vanished in an instant. We're losing clients. Our stock has dropped 23%, and Sterling Company has completely outmaneuvered us. Did you have any idea of the destruction you caused? Daniel's expression darkened, his frustration evident. You think this is all my fault? A dry laugh broke the silence from the other end of the room. You fired the one person who kept this company running. A board member pointed out sharply, and now she's using everything she built here to tear you apart. Daniel's hands clenched into fists. He understood the gravity of the situation. He knew exactly who was responsible for his downfall, and worse, there was nothing he could do to stop it. At 3 p.m., a company-wide email went out. Effective immediately, Daniel Carter has resigned as CEO of Carter and Phillips Consulting. An interim leadership team will be appointed in the coming weeks. I read it twice to let the reality of the moment sink in. Daniel Carter, ousted, fired, publicly shamed, everything he'd spent years building, gone. And yet, it still wasn't enough. At 5:30 p.m., I received an email from Daniel. Subject: Let's talk. Oh, this should be interesting. I opened it. Ellen. We both know things have spiraled out of control. We've had our differences, but we worked together for a long time. I know you're behind all this, and I think it's time we put it behind us. Let's meet. Desperation. Predictable. Pathetic. I hit reply and typed. Daniel. There's nothing to discuss. I've already told you, this can't be fixed. Enjoy your weekend. Then I hit send, and just like that, I closed the final chapter on Daniel Carter's career. But my journey? It was just beginning. The storm had passed, Daniel Carter was finished, his empire had crumbled, his reputation lay in tatters, and Carter and Phillips? A sinking ship struggling to stay afloat. But me? I was just getting started. On Monday morning, I walked into Sterling and Company's headquarters as their newest senior partner, a position I had earned not through office politics, or by making nice with the right people, but because I was the best at what I did. Nathan, the CEO, greeted me with a firm handshake in the executive lounge. Welcome aboard, Ellen, he said. From what I hear, you've already made quite an impact. I smiled. I like to get things done. He chuckled. Well, you're exactly what we need. The clients you brought in, they trust you, and more importantly, they're ready to grow. I nodded, feeling something I hadn't felt in years: excitement, possibility, control. This wasn't just a job, this was a new beginning. I should have known Daniel wouldn't just fade away. Later that afternoon, my assistant knocked on my office door. Ellen, she said hesitantly, you've got a visitor. I raised an eyebrow. Who? She looked uneasy. Daniel Carter. I stared at her for a moment, then exhaled slowly. Send him in. A few moments later, Daniel entered, or at least what was left of him. His expensive suits, his trademark arrogance, that air of invincibility, all gone. His eyes were tired, his face drawn. For the first time in his life, he looked small. I leaned back in my chair, watching him. He didn't sit. He didn't speak right away. Finally, he let out a humorless chuckle. You really did it, huh? I tilted my head. Did what? His jaw clenched. You destroyed me. I didn't correct him, he wasn't wrong. Instead, I simply said, you destroyed yourself, Daniel. He exhaled sharply. I underestimated you. I nodded. Yes, you did. A long silence passed between us. Then, he said something I never expected. I need a job. I almost laughed. Almost. Instead, I just stared at him. Daniel Carter, the man who humiliated me, called me a worthless idiot in front of everyone, and now he was standing there, begging. It was perfect. Poetic. I could have crushed him in that moment. I could have humiliated him, dragged him through the mud, made him feel a fraction of the agony I had. But instead, I stood up, walked over to him, and met his defeated gaze. No, Daniel, I said, my voice calm. You don't need a job, you need a lesson. His eyes darkened, but he remained silent. I smiled, cold and knowing. Good luck, Daniel. I turned and walked back to my desk, and just like that, I dismissed him, for good. That night, I sat in my new office, gazing out at the city skyline. Everything felt different now. For the first time in 20 years, I wasn't just someone else's employee. I was the one in control. I thought back to that humiliating night, the video, the laughter, the betrayal. And now? I wasn't just Ellen, the disposable employee. I was Ellen, the woman who built her own future. The woman who proved that loyalty should never be given to those who don't deserve it. The woman who knew her own worth. I smiled to myself, picked up my glass of wine, and whispered the words Daniel Carter never saw coming. I win. Thanks for watching. See you in the next video. Stay stunned.